You want to live a fearless life? Let me ask you something. What would you do? If fear was no longer in control, would you finally start that dream? Would you speak up? Would you take the risk that you've been avoiding? Because here's the truth. Fear is not the enemy. It's the test. And most people fail that test every single day. Not because they are weak, not because they lack talent, but because they never learned the strategy. You see, fear is predictable. It shows up every time you try to grow. When you want more, fear appears. When you aim higher, fear gets louder. When you step forward, fear steps with you. So the goal is not to eliminate fear. That's impossible. The goal is to understand it, to face it, to use it. Because a fearless life is not a life without fear. It is a life where fear no longer decides. And today, I'm going to show you the strategy. Fear, it's quiet, it's subtle, but it's powerful. More powerful than talent, more powerful than opportunity. Because fear controls decisions. And your life is the result of your decisions. Now let's think about this. Why do most people never go after what they really want? It's not because they don't have dreams. Everyone has dreams. It's not because they don't have ability. Most people are far more capable than they believe. It's because they hesitate. And behind that hesitation is fear. Fear of failure, fear of rejection, fear of embarrassment, fear of loss. And here's what makes it dangerous. Fear doesn't shout. It whispers. It says, wait a little longer. Maybe you're not ready. What if it doesn't work? And if you listen long enough, you stop moving. You delay. You doubt. You shrink. Let me give you something simple but powerful. Fear grows when you don't confront it. That's the rule. The more you avoid it, the stronger it becomes. The more you listen to it, the more control it takes. And over time, fear doesn't just influence your decisions. It defines them. You start choosing comfort over growth, safety over opportunity, excuses over action. And slowly, without even realizing it, you build a life around avoidance. Now here's the tragedy. Most people think fear is protecting them, but it's not. It's limiting them. Fear will tell you to stay where it's safe, but nothing grows in safety. No success, no greatness, no transformation. Everything you want is on the other side of fear. Now understand this carefully. Fear is not the problem. Fear is natural. In fact, it's necessary. It shows up when you're about to do something important, something new, something that matters. So the presence of fear is not a sign to stop. It's a sign to pay attention. But most people misunderstand this. They feel fear and they retreat. They feel discomfort and they quit. They feel uncertainty and they run. And every time they do, they train their mind to believe that fear should be obeyed. That's how fear becomes control. It's not in one big moment. It's in small decisions, repeated daily. Every time you say, I'll do it later, fear wins. Every time you say, what if I fail? Fear grows. Every time you choose comfort over courage, fear gets stronger. Until one day, you're no longer chasing your dreams. You're protecting your fears. Now here's something you must never forget. Fear is predictable. It will show up every time you try to improve your life. When you want to start something new, fear appears. When you want to level up, fear increases. When you want to step into the unknown, fear gets louder. So don't be surprised by it. Expect it. Because the moment you expect fear, you stop being controlled by it. You start observing it. And that changes everything. Instead of saying, I'm scared, I should stop, you begin to say, I'm scared, that means I'm growing. Now you're thinking differently. Now you're in control. You see, the problem is not fear. The problem is not understanding it. Once you understand how fear works, You stop reacting emotionally and start responding intelligently. You realize fear is just a signal, not a command. And when you reach that point, you take the first step toward freedom. Because a fearless life doesn't begin when fear disappears. It begins when fear loses its authority. Fear doesn't start big. It starts small, almost invisible. A thought, a doubt, a tiny hesitation. And in that moment, you have a choice. Act or delay. Now, most people, without even realizing it, choose delay. I'll start tomorrow. I need more time. I'm not ready yet. Sounds harmless, doesn't it? But let me tell you something. Delay is how fear grows. Because fear feeds on time. The longer you wait, the stronger it becomes. The longer you hesitate, the louder it gets. What was once a small doubt turns into a heavy burden. What was once a simple step starts to feel impossible. And here's the danger. You think you're waiting for confidence, but confidence doesn't come first. Action does. You don't feel ready and then act. You act and then you become ready. That's the order. But fear will try to reverse it. It will tell you, wait until you feel confident. And if you listen, you'll be waiting for the rest of your life. Now understand this clearly. Fear shrinks when you move. Fear grows when you pause. It's that simple. You don't need to eliminate fear. You just need to interrupt it. And the fastest way to interrupt fear is immediate action. Not perfect action. Not big action. Just action. A small step. A simple move. A decision to begin. Because the moment you take action, something powerful happens. Your mind shifts. Instead of imagining failure, you start experiencing progress. Instead of thinking about what could go wrong, you start seeing what can go right. And fear loses its grip. Let me give you a simple principle. Do it early. Don't wait. Don't negotiate with fear. Because fear is a poor advisor. It doesn't want you to grow. It wants you to stay comfortable. But comfort is expensive. It costs you your dreams. It costs you your potential. It costs you the life you could have lived. Now here's something worth remembering. The first step is always the hardest. Not because it's difficult, but because fear is strongest at the beginning. Before you act, your mind creates stories. What if I fail? What if I look foolish? What if it doesn't work? But once you step in, those stories begin to disappear. Reality replaces imagination. And reality is almost always easier than fear makes it seem. So the strategy is simple. Face it early. When fear whispers, move. When doubt appears, act. When hesitation shows up, step forward. Train yourself to respond quickly, because speed breaks fear, and hesitation builds it. Now think about your own life. How many opportunities have you delayed? How many ideas have you postponed? How many times have you said later? And what happened? The excitement faded. The confidence disappeared. The fear got stronger. That's the pattern. And if you don't break it, it becomes your lifestyle. But you can change it. Starting now. Make a new decision. When I feel fear, I move. Not tomorrow. Not someday. Now. Because courage is not something you wait for. It's something you create in the moment of action. And every time you act quickly, you weaken fear. Every time you move forward, you build strength. Every time you refuse to delay, you take back control. And slowly, step by step, fear stops growing. And you start winning. So the question becomes, how do you actually live a fearless life? Not in theory, not in words, but in reality, day by day, decision by decision. Because understanding fear is one thing. Facing it early is another. But living fearlessly, that requires a strategy, a way of thinking, a way of acting, a way of being. Let me give it to you step by step, slowly, clearly, so you can carry it with you. First, stop waiting to feel fearless. That's where most people go wrong. They believe one day fear will disappear. One day they will feel ready. One day they will finally have confidence. But that day never comes. Because fearlessness is not a feeling. It's a decision. You don't wait for courage. You choose it. Even when your hands shake. Even when your voice trembles. Even when your mind is full of doubt. You move anyway. That's the first step. Second, reduce fear by increasing clarity. You see, fear loves confusion. When you don't know what to do, fear takes over. When the path is unclear, fear gets stronger. So what do? You get specific. Not I want success, but this is what I will do today. Not I'll try someday, but I'll start now. Clarity cuts fear in half because a clear mind creates decisive action, and decisive action builds confidence. Third, train yourself to act in spite of emotion. This is where discipline comes in, because there will be days you don't feel like it. Days when fear is loud. Days when doubt is heavy. Days when everything inside you says stop. But successful people don't wait for perfect feelings. They act with imperfect ones. They move forward even when it's uncomfortable. And here's what happens. Every time you act in spite of fear, you send a message to your mind. I am in control. Not my emotions. Not my doubts. Not my fears. Me. And that message, repeated daily, builds an unshakable mindset. Fourth, make fear your signal to move, not to stop. This is a powerful shift. Most people feel fear and they retreat. But what if you reversed it? What if fear became your trigger to act? The moment you feel nervous, you step forward. The moment you feel uncertain, you take action. The moment fear appears, you lean into it. Now fear is no longer your enemy. It becomes your guide, pointing you toward growth, toward opportunity, toward the next level of your life. Because think about it. The things that scare you the most are often the things that matter the most. Fifth, build confidence through repetition. Confidence is not magic. It's practice. The more you face fear, the less power it has. The more you take action, the easier it becomes. At first it feels hard, uncomfortable, unnatural. But with repetition, it becomes normal. You become the kind of person who acts, who decides, who moves. And that identity changes everything. Because once you see yourself as someone who takes action, fear loses its authority. Now let me slow this down for a moment and give you the truth in its simplest form. A fearless life is not built in one big moment. It's built in small decisions, daily decisions, quiet decisions, the decision to try, the decision to speak, the decision to begin again and again until one day you look back and realize something has changed. You're no longer the person who hesitates. You're no longer controlled by doubt. You're no longer waiting for the right time. You are the one who moves, the one who acts, the one who lives. And fear, it's still there, but it's smaller now, quieter, weaker, because it no longer decides for you. You decide. And that is the strategy. Not to eliminate fear, but to outgrow it, step by step, choice by choice, until your life is no longer built around avoidance, but around courage. And that's when you realize you're not fearless because fear is gone. You're fearless because it no longer has power over you. Fear is not what you think it is. Most people see fear as a warning, a reason to stop, a reason to step back, a reason to play it safe. But what if that interpretation is wrong? What if fear is not telling you to stop, but telling you something else? Something deeper, something more powerful. You see, fear is not a stop sign. It's a signal that you're stepping into something new, a signal that you're stretching beyond your comfort, a signal that growth is happening. Now think about it. Every time you try to improve your life, fear appears. When you want to speak in front of others, fear shows up. When you want to start something new, fear rises. When you want to take a risk, fear gets louder. Is that a coincidence? No. It's a pattern. Fear follows growth. Always. So instead of asking, why am I scared? Ask a better question. What is this fear trying to show me? Because behind fear, there is opportunity. Behind fear, there is expansion. Behind fear, there is a version of you haven't met yet. But most people never meet that version. Why? Because they misread the signal. They feel fear and they assume danger. They feel discomfort and they assume something is wrong. So they stop. They retreat. They stay where it's safe and they miss out on who they could have become. Let me give you a simple shift. Small, but powerful. From now on, when you feel fear, don't say, I should stop. Say, this must matter. Because fear rarely shows up for things that don't matter. It shows up when the stakes are higher, when the outcome is meaningful, when the potential is real. So fear is not there to block you. It's there to point you, to guide you, to say, pay attention. This is important. Now here's where mindset changes everything. Two people can feel the same fear and get completely different results. One person feels fear and freezes. The other feels fear and moves. Same feeling, different meaning, different outcome. So the key is not to eliminate fear. The key is to redefine it. Turn fear into feedback. Turn fear into direction. Turn fear into fuel. Because when you change the meaning of fear, you change your response. And when you change your response, you change your life. Now let's go deeper. Fear is uncomfortable. We all know that. But discomfort is not a sign of failure. It's a sign of progress. Every new skill feels uncomfortable. Every new level feels uncertain. Every new challenge feels intimidating. That's the price of growth. And if you're not willing to feel uncomfortable, you're not willing to grow. It's that simple. So instead of avoiding discomfort, learn to welcome it. Not because you enjoy it, but because you understand it. You understand that discomfort is the doorway, and fear is standing at that door, not to stop you, but to test you, to ask, do you really want this? And your answer is not in your words. It's in your actions. Do you step forward or do you step back? That's the decision. And that decision, repeated over time, becomes your destiny. Now imagine this. What if every time you felt fear, you leaned into it? What if every time your heart raced, you took that as a signal to move? What if every time doubt appeared, you used it as a reminder that you're on the edge of something greater? Your entire life would change. Because now, fear is no longer your limitation. It becomes your compass, guiding you toward growth, guiding you toward courage, guiding you toward the life you truly want. So don't run from fear. Read it. Don't avoid it. Understand it. Don't let it stop you. Let it guide you. Because a fearless life is not about having no fear. It's about having a new relationship with it, where fear no longer controls your direction, but informs it. And when you reach that point, you don't just face fear. You use it. And that is where real power begins. Now, we come to the final step. The step that separates those who think from those who live. Taking control. Because at the end of the day, it's not about what you know. It's about what you do. You can understand fear. You can study it. You can talk about it. But if you don't act, nothing changes. Your life stays the same. So the question is not, do you feel fear? Of course you do. We all do. The real question is, who's in control? Is it your fear or is it you? Now here's the truth. Control is not given. It is taken in small moments, taken in quiet decisions, taken when no one is watching, when you choose to act instead of hesitate, when you choose to speak instead of stay silent, when you choose to try instead of avoid. That's how control is built, not in one big victory, but in daily discipline. You see, living boldly does not mean you are never afraid. It means you refuse to let fear decide your future. You feel it and you move anyway. You hear the doubt and you step forward anyway. You face uncertainty and you act anyway. That word, anyway, is powerful because it removes excuses. I'm tired, but I'll do it anyway. I'm not confident, but I'll try anyway. I'm scared, but I'll move anyway. That's how bold people think. They don't wait for perfect conditions. They create progress in imperfect ones. Now let me slow this down and give you something simple to carry with you. Your life moves in the direction of your decision, not your intentions, not your wishes, your decisions. And every time you let fear decide, you move away from your potential. But every time you take control, you move toward it, step by step, choice by choice. Now here's something important. Bold living requires responsibility. You can't blame fear. You can't blame circumstances. You can't blame other people. Because the moment you blame, you give away control. And we're not doing that anymore. From this point forward, you take ownership of your actions, of your decisions, of your direction. Because that's where power lives, in responsibility. Now, will it be easy? No. There will be days when fear feels heavy, days when doubt comes back, days when you question yourself. That's part of the journey. But remember this, you don't need to win every day. You just need to keep moving, keep showing up, keep taking action, keep choosing courage, even if it's small, even if it's slow. Because consistency defeats fear over time. And as you continue, something begins to change. You become stronger. Not because fear disappeared, but because you stopped obeying it. You start trusting yourself more. You start acting faster. You start thinking differently. And one day, you look at a situation that once scared you and realize it no longer has the same power. That's growth. That's progress. That's control. Now imagine this, a life where you no longer hold yourself back, a life where you speak your mind, where you chase your goals, where you take risks without overthinking every step. That life is available to you. Not someday, not when you feel ready, now, but only if you decide to live boldly, to stop waiting, to stop hesitating, to stop letting fear write your story, because fear will always have something to say, but it doesn't have to have the final word. You do. So take control, make the decision, draw the line, and say to yourself, no more. No more shrinking. No more delaying. No more living small. From this moment forward, you act, you move, you live, despite fear, not without it. Because a fearless life is not about removing fear. It's about rising above it. And when you do, you don't just change your actions. You change your identity. You become the person who does what others are too afraid to do. And that person is unstoppable. Don't wait. Don't wait for the perfect moment. Don't wait for confidence to magically appear. Don't wait for fear to disappear, because it won't. Fear will always be there. watching, whispering, waiting. But here's what changes everything. You, your decision, your willingness to act despite it. You see, most people spend their lives trying to feel ready. But the truth is simple. You become ready by moving. You become strong by facing resistance. You become fearless by walking through fear. Not around it, through it. Step by step, day by day. So from this moment on, make a new choice. When fear shows up, don't step back. Step forward. When doubt speaks, don't listen. Take action. When life challenges you, don't shrink. Rise. Because the life you want is not found in comfort. It's found in courage. And courage is a decision. A daily decision. A personal decision. A powerful decision. So decide today that fear will no longer control you. That hesitation will no longer stop you. That your dreams are worth the risk. And remember this, a fearless life is not given. It is built. Built by those who act. Built by those who persist. Built by those who refuse to quit. So go out there, face it, fight through it, and live boldly. Because your future is waiting on the other side of fear.